Well, here we freaking go, guys. Welcome back to more CSGO news. Hope you're all doing well. Grab your coffee, grab your drinks. Let's strap on in here, guys, for a great story. Well, maybe not a great story, but a story that's definitely going to be complex going forward in the future, as we now have updates on the Boomich story and the $95,000 apparently being stolen between him and his teammates formerly on Quantum Bellator Fire. Now, this actually was quite some time ago, but the story recently did come up because of Boomich on Twitter revealing that apparently $95,000 was taken, and that same member is apparently also in the management of another CIS team who could be attending the major as well coming up this fall. Now, with that being said, though, we have a few sources coming forward, one of which is the co-founder or the co-owner of QBF himself, now saying that none of that was actually the truth, and he actually had a great interview with HLTV. I will link it down below for all of you guys because that article revealed a lot of information, which I will summarize for you guys very shortly, because although it does seem like a complicated issue, it's very complicated when you figure that, yes, he did make some great points, but with that being said, JMQA, one of Boomich's former teammates on QBF, as well as Decay, have both called this interview a straight up lie. So I will reveal what he did say, but take it with a grain of salt, guys, because he did make some very valid points if true, but now we already have people saying what he said was a lie. So let's start off by actually saying what their initial salary was. If you guys do remember, QBF was kind of a wildfire team, really an up-and-coming team, I guess some people would say, but certainly had a dream run. Even making the major itself was a dream for these guys, and the run they made there, it was stellar. It was the only great result these guys have had, and no one is denying that. But with that, right before the major, upcoming to the major, their salary was actually set at $750 a month, which given where they were, was not too crazy. I think the most important point made here, they did not sign contracts before the major, according to the co-owner there, and that's a major red flag if true, as I'm sure you guys are aware of. If you don't sign those contracts, you leave everything up in the air to what's going to happen to you next. Now, after they got home from the major, right, they had that dream run. It came down to a financial situation for QBF because they were a very new org. They did not have much funding. This is what, according to the owner, they called a hobby. It was not actually a business they wanted to establish right off the gate, and especially not expect to have a team like this probably right out of the gate. That being a team who came home from the major and then soon demanded $5,000 a month per player, which they were initially, like I said before, paid $750. Now, eventually, they actually agreed upon $2,000 per month, but the financial weight of this team, the burden of this team who had only had one good result so far, it was too much for QBF, and after much turmoil, they decided that either they had to actually try and have the financial backing to afford these players, or they let them go and sell off to another organization. Eventually, that organization did become Winstrike. They were one of the few teams who actually could offer to pay these guys because the owner does restate, the fact is this, they had one good result, that being their major run. Before that, after that, really not too much going on. So eventually, also down the line, they actually had to freeze these players' salaries because they just couldn't afford to pay these guys what they were demanding. Now, keep in mind as well, according to the owner's words, they did freeze the players' salaries, promising to pay those salaries out once they receive a buyout amount for the team. So the players were well aware of this. Apparently, they agreed to that. So they froze their salaries until Winstrike paid the transfer amount or the buyout amount for those players. And so what they were actually owed was taken out of that transfer amount, apparently amounting to around $46,000 was taken out of the transfer fee, which was given to QBF, and that was then given directly to the players of what they were owed. Very lastly, according to the owner of QBF, or the co-owner I should say, apparently all outstanding debts and salaries to the players, including prize pool and sticker money, have been paid. But I think an interesting point as well to kind of close things out, he does also state their prize pool splits were 75-25, and each player got 5% of sticker money. Now, when it comes to sticker money percentages, I don't know the full details of what usually is a typical go-to rate for players out there, so I'm not sure whether or not that's an unfair amount, although I will say it does sound fairly low. And so my first thoughts, when honestly, when I read that story through, it makes a lot of clear sense. If he's not lying, it would definitely swing things a bit more into his favor of having an argument here, because a lot of what he said simply did make sense, and especially when it comes down to them not signing contracts, if they did not, legally at least, he should be in the clear. But with JMQA, one of Boomich's former teammates, saying it's a lie, and with Decay saying it's a lie, you know certainly there is other things going on here, and you also have to question if all salaries, if all outstanding debts were actually paid to those players, why then would Boomich come forward and say $95,000 was stolen and is still owed. So I wonder where he's getting that number from. And again, we're going to wait for updates for all of you guys. But I will say, if everything he did say in here was true, it makes a lot of sense for a new up-and-coming org to all of a sudden not be able to afford this team. Eventually, though, once they were bought out, they did pay their salaries. And so I will not blame them for that if it is true, although people are already saying it's a lie. So I'll wait to update you guys sometime in the future. We will find out who exactly is telling the truth about this story. One of these days, I'm going to get a coffee sponsor. One of these days. And another story out there I'm going to have updates for you guys in the future on, because it is an ongoing issue, although maybe it shouldn't be going forward. That being, Astralis has been sold. I talked about this very briefly in yesterday's episode. A brief update for all of you guys is some people out there are saying it's still a bit skeptical of the way this was actually gone about by both Jacob and Nicola. They actually have, of course, upper management roles, or upper roles, I should say, in the former Refresh Entertainment group. Pretty much what they did, guys, is Refresh has now sold Astralis for an undisclosed fee, which could be, of course, in the teens or tens of millions of dollars. So that's a pretty crazy thing to think about, a CSGO team being worth that much money alongside whatever assets it was. They opened up a different group, that being a different subset group, I should say. So they have, of course, Refresh Entertainment separately now from the holding group of Astralis, and there should be no ties. There should be no ownership or people having shares in both companies. They can only have ownership or shares in a single company. That being, Nicola and Jacob have now actually taken their roles from Refresh. They are now leaving Refresh entirely and now taking those roles up in Astralis. Now, I know my hands are not proper actual, interpretation of what is going on here, but there should be, based off this, technically no conflict of interest. Although to think that Nicola and Jacob have now gone to Refresh to Astralis, and there are no friendship ties or underlying ties back to Refresh to have them act in ways that benefit each group, it would be a bit naive to think about. So going forward, we'll actually see how this does work out, guys. I can't really blame them too much, because based off community feedback, they did technically what we wanted them to do, although they just didn't do it probably the way that everyone wanted them to do it. It's kind of confusing, right? And I think if they would have entirely sold Astralis off to a completely new entity, a new group that had no ties to Refresh, we would be fine here. But obviously now you have former Refresh uppers in Astralis, and so you could argue that if they do still have ties back to Refresh, both parties could act in best interest of each other to benefit each other. Does that make sense? It's a bit complicated. Anyway, another big news out there that we also talked about yesterday, guys, an update on that story, that being Syman Gaming potentially having to change their logo for the major. They were reached out to by Starletter because their logo represented pretty closely to that of Gamers Club, who is not a CSGO team or an organization ever in esports. They will never have stickers, but they actually are owned by Immortals and Immortals Gaming Club. And even though Immortals are not going to be at the major, it's a weird situation, guys. Valve made a final decision on this, and that's going to be the fact that Syman Gaming's logo will remain in the game unchanged. And you know what? I went to bed last night thinking maybe it's for the best they do change their logo, because for stickers, I'm selfish and I want cool stickers, but good for them, guys. Apparently it was actually a fan-made or community-made logo for the team, so they get to keep that logo going forward for their major and for their stickers. So either way, not too big of a choice. Now, what is a huge choice that I can't even show you guys my excitement about this is a huge update last night, a few map changes here and there. Most importantly, though, what is summed up to be unranked matchmaking is now finally in the game for a few select maps out there. It will not be any of your main competitive pool maps, which is a bit sucky, but it does make perfect sense because you don't want to take away from those actual maps in terms of ranked matchmaking, because the queue times could skyrocket. But with all of that being said, it takes away the stress on those maps of having to win or having to perform your best, and there is no repercussions to actually losing games, which I love. I haven't really been back in a competitive CS or matchmaking for quite some time, and this could be the thing. If I do find my time, this is definitely the thing I would love to do, because when it comes times for matchmaking or any kind of ranked play across any game out there, I avoid it because I get really anxious, I get stressed, I get angered by the fact that I have to win to progress, and this actually brings a brand new fun game mode that we have wanted for quite some time. Great job, Valve. I love the update to Death and Back, and I just hope it works out very well, because apparently CS has been broken pretty much this entire week. So let's fix those matchmaking things. And also, there are still penalties in this mode for cheating and, of course, griefing alongside other things as well. So don't you dare try that. As always, my name is Jake, though, guys. Quick update. I'm actually gone this weekend. I did pre-record, though, a lot of good videos. You know, with my team here, we pre-recorded some very, very good videos. If you guys want to do me a favor, check back on the channel this weekend. Both tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, I pre-recorded some videos for all of you guys, and I worked my tail off so you guys could have some of my face until I get back here Monday to break down some other cool news out there. So as always, though, thank you all for watching. An amazing week. It was a great week here on CSGO News, and I know for sure, thanks to Decay and other reporters out there, we will have some amazing stories come Monday to break down for all of you. Drink your coffee, guys. Have a safe weekend. I'll be back here soon, and yeah, see ya.